to the banking market and not to existing financial institutions. Well, our political correspondent Gillian Hargreaves is here with more details. So why is all this happening, Gillian?
Well, as taxpayers, we have a big share in three banking groups: Royal Bank of Scotland, the Lloyds Group and Northern Rock. The government is 100% shareholder in Northern Rock. And the plan is that in future, three new banks will be created out of amalgam of those shares that we have in those three existing banks. Crucially, they will be sold to the private sector and they will be sold to organisations who've never been involved in banking before. And we've been told by Treasury sources tonight that they will be what we'd call safe banks. They would be engaged in mortgages and deposits and lending, so the core of what banks traditionally used to do. So they'll be on the high street, they will be sold to private companies, perhaps companies like Tesco or Virgin, which have expressed an interest in this sort of thing in the past, and they will be up and running by 2015. And tonight something else has been confirmed to us, that the government will try to sell off what it calls the good assets of Northern Rock in January of next year. Now, the Conservatives have said all along that the government might well try to do this. So that's something that they will also announce, that they will announce tomorrow, that they will try to sell off the good assets of Northern Rock.
OK, so no investment arms to these new banks then in 2015?
Our understanding is not, that they will be engaged in what they've called safe banking, deposits and mortgages only. It was likened to me as a sort of the Captain Mannering banks, you know, Captain Mannering from Dad's Army, traditional sort of banker engaged in the low-risk stuff that we all understand about banks, that we can get our mortgages from them and we can deposit our money to them.
Well, if they're creating these new banks, that might suggest that jobs could be lost, perhaps?
Well, we don't know that at the moment, and crucially what's important for all of us is, will we get our taxpayer stake back? Will they be sold when market conditions allow us all to get a profit? Now, Treasury civil servants have told me privately that they won't sell them at a loss. If they sold our stake in the banking system right now, taxpayers would lose £5 billion. So what they need to do is make sure that market conditions are absolutely at their optimum so that they get our money back.
OK, so political reaction to this so far?
Well, the Tories, I spoke to John Redwood earlier, the former Conservative minister, and he had said that the banks should be sold off in parcels. He was talking about 4 or 5 different banks, so it's not come as a surprise to him. But as I say, this is a very radical change to the banking system, so there's bound to be a lot of political reaction to this. And of course, what's been very difficult for the government is it made this bold step of taking enormous amounts of taxpayers' money and trying to shore up the banking system. It was a huge risk at the time, and the calculation for the government is it's got to make sure that it saved those ailing banks, but it also uses our money wisely. So that's the calculation for the government.
Exactly. I mean, they're saying to the public, it would seem, ministers are saying to the public, look, we've used your money to bail these banks out. We're now going to make them boring high street banks. Don't worry, your money's safe with us. Yes,
that's the key. I mean, for a Treasury advisor to say to me they're going to be boring banks did make my eyebrows raise. But yes, that high-risk investment stuff where they were parcelling packages from what they call toxic assets from the US market, all of that is going out of the window. These companies that take over the high street banks will not be allowed to do that. It'll be traditional core banking, lending us money and looking after our money safely.
OK, we'll leave it there, Gillian Hargreaves. Thanks very much.